Fight with heroes.
Never tell me the odds.
And battle with villains.
Bring me more Jedi!
Get ready for the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection.
Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we are celebrating not one, but two all-time classics, Star Wars Battlefront 1 and Star Wars Battlefront 2, both from Pandemic, a developer that I wish was still around to this day because they did nothing but bangers. You had Mercenaries, Destroy All Humans, you had the Saboteur, Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, like everything this team touched turned to gold. It was an absolutely incredible stretch for them. We will talk about them more later on, but ladies and gentlemen, Battlefront 1 and 2, the reason we're celebrating them today is because of the release of the Classic Collection. I did not get a review code, and actually I'll be on a rare vacation, so I'm not available to play it of the launch day and make a video within a day or two. Unfortunately, I can't do that. So here we are talking about Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, the original 1 and 2, might I add, and how special of a series it is. So let's not delay any further. If you're new here and you're into nostalgic, retrospective content, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. Let's begin with Star Wars Battlefront 1, which just has some of the best UI in Star Wars gaming, in my opinion. I love the kind of blue wireframe menus and the loading screen, of course. There's just some sort of style, some sort of epicness to Battlefront 1 that I have to say, even though I'm partial to Battlefront 2, I think Battlefront 1 just has the edge in that atmosphere and that feel. But let's focus on Battlefront 1 because I think we all have our own story on how we were introduced to Battlefront 1. And for me, I remember it like it was yesterday. A lot of games I discovered as a kid either came through finding it randomly in a storefront, like I'm there grocery shopping with my parents, or they're running errands and they had to take me with them. We stopped by Circuit City or Best Buy or even Sears at one point. That's where I found Naruto Ninja Council. And as a reward for my efforts, I put in quote, my parents will give me a game, right? In this case with Battlefront, it was the word on the street. So I remember talking to one of my friends, Gary, in second grade, and I was telling him how I was loving Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and how I wish there was a Star Wars game that let you play as the common soldier, the stormtrooper, clone trooper, the droids, play as the rebels. I wish you could just play as them and not really these games where you're always the hero. And he goes, well, there is a game called Star Wars Battlefront. And mind you, this is as a kid, during my era at least, when you heard about a game in school, I wasn't always on the internet. I didn't see screenshots and promotional material. I sometimes would catch something in an Xbox magazine, but otherwise it was just hearsay until that fateful moment of discovery where you just see the game on the store shelves. So I returned home to mother and father dearest, and I'm like, hey, birthday's coming up soon, and I was told about this game, Star Wars Battlefront. Yeah, mom and pop, would you want to get me that one? And so, okay, we'll see about it, right? They don't give me the outright confirmation right away. My parents always like the good secret. And then it's my birthday, and what do you know? Got extremely lucky, got Star Wars Battlefront 1, and it was exactly as described. There was no miscommunications, no misdirections. It was literally me playing as stormtroopers, clone troopers on all these maps, all these planets I knew and loved, some of them brand new to me. And oh my God, was it this eye-opening, unbelievable moment. And there I would spend probably hundreds, if not thousands of hours in my life playing these games. So Star Wars Battlefront 1 is very different, in my opinion, compared to Star Wars Battlefront 2. Yes, you have eyeballs, so you can see it's a third-person shooter, and you can roll around, and you have these classes, but what makes, I think, Battlefront 1 different are its maps, as well as how the camera is utilized. For starters, the camera is pulled in really tight, something that I think they did a good job adjusting for in the sequel. But also, these maps, I have to say, as someone who's put so many hours into these games that I started to look at them more and more critically, it's okay, let's really pick this thing apart. What about the map design? Battlefront 2 is very open and airy and vehicle focused and designed to get you to playing as the hero. So you're going to be doing front flips across these maps at one point or another. So the traversal means less, whereas Battlefront 1 was built around the soldier, and the most mobility you got was a jet trooper, for example. And so a lot of these maps were more tight and interconnected. I love the Bespin City maps because there's a lot of choke points, and there's also aerial combat that's happening right there in real time. It's a much more cohesive battlefield, if you will. Even if the gunplay doesn't feel as tight, there's just something about Battlefront 1's map design that I think creates really fun skirmishes. Now, for those who don't know, and this will be included in the Classic Collection, so if you're interested, fret not. Originally, thanks to Xbox backwards compatibility, if you were to throw a copy of Battlefront 1 or 2 in your Xbox One or your Series X or download it on your Series S, you'd actually be able to get access to DLC. This was something that was previously inexperienced to me. In fact, for this video, for the first time ever, I played as Asajj Ventress and Kit Fisto in Battlefront 2. We'll talk about that in a moment. But here in Battlefront 1, you got to play on Jabba's palace, and like this was a crazy moment for me. I'm like, holy smokes, I'm playing on a brand new map in Battlefront all these years later. Like, I can't believe I never tried this, because anytime I played Battlefront 1, it was either on PC, or when I played it the most, it was my original Xbox and the 360. In Battlefront 2, I spent easily the most time on that game on either PS2 or PC. So this kind of gap in content's just there, which is crazy to think about. But Battlefront 1 is really humble beginnings when you look at it in the rearview mirror, right? Like, you don't have the hunt mode, you don't have capture the flag, you don't really have space battles. There are so many modes and things that were expanded upon in Battlefront 2 that we'll talk about. But in Battlefront 1, it was just these simple maps, and all of them kind of had like gimmicks. For example, there was the map on Tatooine where you had like the monster in the sands that would absorb you, and you would also have like a third enemy to fight against on a lot of maps, like, or the Tusken Raiders on Tatooine. Like, you would have these sort of moments here where there was a third opposing force that added this monkey wrench into the battles. And so I just really love the skirmishes and the look and presentation of Battlefront 1. It did come with a campaign, and I don't think it was that bad, but the presentation in terms of like cutscenes and mission setup wasn't really too fantastic. But again, you have to appreciate it as humble beginnings, and I just really, really have a soft spot for Battlefront 1 all these years later. But I definitely will admit I have a lot more to say about Battlefront 2, the game I spent a disgusting amount of time with, and surprisingly, we've never done a dedicated video to here on this channel, so maybe we'll right that wrong one of these days. But for now, let's take a look at a complete box copy. I know it's platinum hits, I'll explain myself in a moment, of Battlefront 1, and then talk about the GOAT, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Beginning off with Battlefront 1 complete in box. It's a rare platinum hit for your boy, kind of like KOTOR, where I will accept the silver spine here because this was my original copy. This was how I picked up the game back when I wasn't prissy and had a problem with things like this. But also, I just have so many memories baked into it. Feels like giving it up for the OG copy. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me. Nonetheless, here we have Star Wars Battlefront platinum hits. On the back of the box, it says, "Live the battles," a motto to live by for this game for sure. And you can learn more about Battlefront 2 inside. So you can see I was pretty late to the party here. Fight up to 16 players in massive online battles. Pilot over 30 vehicles, including AT-ATs, X-Wings, and Snow Speeders. You also are able to battle on unique planets from the entire Star Wars saga. And back when it was only 2 trilogies, right? And also pick your side: Rebels, Imperials, Clone Troopers, or Battle Droids. And choose your weapon wisely. Each soldier has different weapons and capabilities, with the middle saying, "You've seen the movies, now live the battle. For the first time, play the classic Star Wars battles any way you want. Experience the chaos of war as you fight the greatest battles in the Star Wars universe," with a missing E. Wow, I never caught that. Whoa, a misprint there too. Wowee. All right. You discover something new every time you crack these old copies open. Of course, the winner here being a different cover art to disc art. You already know you got Maddie's heart with that one. You can see here they're on Endor. Pretty cool there. Anyway, got a couple of cool little surprises for you in this Battlefront 1 complete in box experience. Let's start off with the slips. You have the marketing slip. You send this in. They pound your mailbox with all sorts of fun things. Now, nowadays, they actually just spam your email, and so that's great. And then here you have the Battlefront 2 promotion saying it's coming fall 2005, sequel to the best-selling Star Wars game ever. It takes the best-selling Star Wars video game of all time, one Imperial Walker step forward with all new space combat, playable Jedi, and never-before-seen environments straight out of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. What a time to be alive is all I can say. Not just because of the game, just pre-Episode 3 hype. I'll never forget it. As a kid, incredible time. We'll talk more about that with Battlefront 2. But here on the inside, it's a decent manual. I love how thorough they are with all of the little things, right? The introduction, like, are you ready to step onto the battlefield? But also breaking down even every single unit gets their own description in a few pages we'll see here, right? The Stormtrooper, Scout Trooper, Dark Trooper, what each of them do. They don't leave it to you to just to discover. They break them all down per faction, Republic, CIS, and so on. There is actually one thing toward the back of this manual that I got a real good kick out of, and I'm curious if anyone wants to write in and tell us a little bit more about hint lines at LucasArts. I don't know if anyone watching this, because we have an audience that ranges from all ages, has anyone ever worked at the hint line for these games? Because they say here, if you need a hint, you may call our automated hint line. This service costs $2 per minute, requires a touch-tone phone, and you must be at least 18 years old or have a parent's permission to call. The number is 1-900-329-JEDI. The option to speak with a live hint operator is also available from this number. Hint line operators are available during regular business hours. Like your 9 to 6 is giving hints for Battlefront 2 and other LucasArts games. Like, has anyone in our audience actually had the privilege of doing this? And if so, write your experience down below. I'm just curious if anyone has, because that's so interesting to me. Or just hint lines in general. Like, I can imagine a little kid just getting stomped out by the CIS and saying, Mom, I need to pay $2 and get a hint. I gotta know how to beat these fools. And then they're promoting mercenaries on the back. Anyway, pretty legendary complete box experience there. All they needed to do was illustrate the manual, and they would have had a goated one here, but nonetheless, a complete box copy of Platinum Hits Battlefront 1. You want to talk about a you had to be there moment? I don't care what anyone says with this revisionist history on the prequels that were scorned for over a decade, but all of a sudden, we love the prequels. Yeah, I was there day one. I adored the prequels from the start. I don't want to hear it. To me, Battlefront 2 and the Revenge of the Sith release combining was like this you had to be there moment, right? Because I remember after Revenge of the Sith came out, I'm on a Star Wars high. Like, that movie is still my favorite of the Star Wars saga. I absolutely love it. The culmination of everything that's built up for 2 movies straight. So many epic moments, so many hilarious line deliveries. Just an incredible movie, in my opinion. I really, really love Revenge of the Sith, unapologetically so. And then you have Battlefront 2 land in my lap after that. As a kid, I could not be more over the moon. You have more maps than ever before, more leaning into Revenge of the Sith than ever before. But the question is really like, okay, you already have the framework. I talked about humble beginnings in Battlefront 1. What do you do to add on top of an already potentially perfect framework here? You get to play as the troopers. This is such a novel, new idea. How do you evolve this? And they had answers. First off, modes. Let's talk about the GOAT. It was already in Battlefront 1, but I think it's way better in Battlefront 2. Galactic Conquest. There is no excuse. I know that DICE's Battlefront 2 redeemed itself over time. There is no excuse why there was never a modern take on Galactic Conquest outside of one, and I'm going to outright say it, fear. No one could do it as right as Pandemic. No one. This arcadey conquest mix here is so good, so captivating. I don't think anyone wants to dare to try and modernize what is a all-time classic game mode. For those unfamiliar with Galactic Conquest, you get to see a star map of what is effectively every map in the game. Now, as you fight against the opposing force, let's say you pick the Republic, you're going to fight the droids. If you pick the Rebels, you're going to fight the Stormtroopers. And you're going to go to war over all of these planets. As you expand your conquest, you're going to gradually conquer all of these territories or lose some of them as the opponent's going to move around the board and try to attack some planets. Sometimes your ships are going to collide in this star map and you're going to have a star battle against the enemy. Maybe they'll lose a turn. So it's this mixture of tactics and kind of bringing to life the battles more so, which is what Battlefront always did spectacularly well. Just taking what you saw in the movies, right? These battles on all these planets, and they're not just snapshots. Like in the Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign, you see a quick clip of the movie of Coyote Mundi running around, a bunch of stormtroopers fighting behind him, and then it just ends, right? Because it was just a quick snapshot in Revenge of the Sith, but now you get to blow up that snapshot, and it's like a whole big entire battle. So this mode lets you realize that dream. But also what Battlefront 2 does that I think is much better than Battlefront 1 is the addition of unlocking new classes. So you already know you had in Battlefront like your troopers, your heavy troopers, you had the snipers, the shotgun users, the special classes like, you know, the dark trooper, or you'd find a Bothan spy. You have all these special classes and you have to spend credits that you earn through winning battles to unlock these units. But then there's also bonuses. And I think bonuses are sort of the thing that add a tactical layer to it, because you have to deploy them wisely. Like, you're always going to be the leader in the leaderboards when it comes to Battlefront single player, but that's not enough. Sometimes the enemy's going to be steamrolling the rest of your army, and a garrison would be great. Sometimes you need to call in a hero/villain. There's sometimes an enhanced blaster is a good choice, and so on and so forth. Like, there are so many different options at your disposal. Galactic Conquest is a beautiful suite of arcadey fun in Battlefront 2. I cannot express enough how much I absolutely adore it. But it goes beyond that. There's Capture the Flag, there's Hunt, where you get to play as these instead of like just watching them run around the map and being this third opposing force, you get to play as them. So I was like, oh, I forgot what map it was, but it was like a snow map, and I'm just running around destroying rebels. It's just like, this is so great. So they have these fun little wacky modes, but then they have Assault, where you have these two kind of capture points and you play as the heroes and villains. And of course the classic one is the Assault map of Tatooine, where you get like all the jazzy Star Wars music playing while you run around and fight. Like, they were just cooking at this point, having an absolute blast. And yes, that is one of the big additions of Battlefront 2, is being able to play as a hero/villain, because they started with the framework of like, you are just a stormtrooper and you build your way up to Darth Vader. Whereas most games just say, you want to be Darth Vader, right? You want to be the most epic dude in the universe. Here you go. Now, what's interesting is, as I mentioned before, this is my first time experiencing Battlefront 2 DLC. So I'm firing this up. You get 4 new maps. You had Bespin Cloud City, which was from the first game. You had Renvar Citadel, Renvar Harbor. I think Renvar was actually the snow map I was talking about for the hunt mode. You also had Yavin Arena, which is where you can play Assault now. And then they added 2 heroes in Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress, which was like my first time experiencing that. And it's funny because you could feel how incomplete they are. Like, every single character has these fun little voice lines. Like, when they spawn in, they'll say something, and then when they fight each other, they'll say something, and when they kill you and you see the kill cam, they'll say something. But Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress are like dead silent, and it's so funny how unfinished they are. Kit Fisto has a force orb. I didn't know about this. This is hilarious. Like, you can just throw basically a force beach ball at enemies. I thought that was great. Asajj Ventress, she has these like pretty much ninja stars that she throws out. So they actually have new wrinkles to the kit too, which I thought was pretty fun, because when I first started using her, I was actually getting beat up and I was running around Bespin Cloud City thinking like, okay, this is what's going on? Like, I usually don't have this happen. And I started to get the hang of them, and I thought, okay, these characters actually have different like ranged abilities, different approaches. And so yeah, I found myself really enjoying the DLC. The new maps, of course, are always much appreciated, because I think that's what defines Battlefront. But things are a lot more open in this game. They're definitely prettier, but it's definitely a lot more open, which leads to, I think, sometimes less concentrated skirmishes like you'd experience in Battlefront 1, but not to like the complete negative of Battlefront 2, just because there is so much content, right? They go above and beyond. Whereas originally battles in starships would happen within the confines of the map, and now you can go up into space and fight and actually dock your ship in the enemy ship, go into the back end and destroy everything with your own 2 hands. Like, I thought this was one of the coolest parts of the game as a kid, although playing it now, it's a touch drawn out. Like, because like, you'll place explosives all over this ship, then run back to the ammo canister, replenish your ammo, throw the explosives down again until everything's destroyed. Sometimes an enemy will wander to the back. What you'll see with Battlefront 2 nowadays, and I don't know if the Classic Collection will clean this up, I doubt it, because it's an Aspire port and they do things pretty, if you will, authentically, as in just, here's the product as it was, it's just up-res with trophy support. But when it comes to Battlefront 2, this game was made in about a year's time, and so it's impressive for what it is, but this is also a game that needed a little more time in the can for bug testing. So sometimes enemies will run in the back and just stare at you, and that's it. Enemies will ignore you when you're running around on the ship. And so, yeah, I feel like Battlefront 2 does miss the mark a bit on polish, where Battlefront 1 does feel a bit more finely tuned in that compartment. Battlefront 1 also has a way better story mode. Just like the cutscenes, the voiceover, as you're talking about the rise of the Empire, that's the focus of this story, naturally built around Episode 3. And the missions have much better objectives, where I feel like sometimes Battlefront's ones were a little more vague, designed to just pretty much get you playing Conquest over and over and over. Battlefront 2 has you getting certain objects, interacting with objects in the world, going to different parts of the map, and so you could feel the design was a little stronger here on that front. It makes it all the more impressive the game was made in like a year's time. So it's just an absolutely incredible game. And so now let's take a look at a complete box copy of Battlefront 2, and we'll wrap this thing up. For the original Xbox, we have Star Wars Battlefront 2, the sequel to the best-selling Star Wars game of all time. On the back of the box, they say, fight more of the greatest battles in Star Wars any way you want. Fight on the front lines where every weapon and vehicle is yours. And now for the first time, Star Wars Battlefront 2 lets you fight as a Jedi, battle in space, play across 16 new locations, and engage in massive online battles, the latter of which I didn't get to do until very late in my life when I got the game on Steam. Now here on the inside, a little bit of a drop off, right? You have Battlefront 1 with a different disc art to the manual, and then you look here at what they're doing for Battlefront 2, and yes, they repeated. How dare they? What a corner cut. And they don't add illustrations to the manuals, unfortunately, though they are chonkers, so they were good reads on those car rides home. This one, unfortunately, doesn't have any fun ones like finding about a hint line, but what you have here are some pretty cool character models. Opening it up to Boba Fett, who is one of my favorite characters growing up, was awesome to see. I think the next one is Jango Fett. Yep, right here, another one. I dressed up as Jango Fett for Halloween, primarily because of this game and Star Wars Bounty Hunter, so always loved playing as Jango Fett whenever I could call him in as a hero. They break down all the little buffs you can get, like reinforcements. Again, the units get their own description here. There were some new units inside this game compared to the first one. They describe heroes and being able to play as them, as well as the villains. Tons of vehicles in this game. Some of the single player offerings. But yeah, pretty by the numbers manual ultimately. Nothing too crazy here. They also explain the what's it called, the rewards and the medals you would get as you would do some crazy stuff. And this is important because I don't think the game really ever breaks it down, like how you unlock it and what it gives you. Like Frenzy Elite Assault Rifle, you get that with 12 kills with the blaster rifle, so you get rewarded as you do better. So just something to note there that was in the manual that I personally, heading into it, didn't know much about. And then otherwise, nothing on the back, no cool promotions whatsoever. So that is a pretty simple complete box copy of Star Wars Battlefront 2. So yes, Star Wars Battlefront really is that good. If you're looking at the classic collection, barring any sort of bugs, glitches, any surprising game-crashing bugs, which can happen like they did with Knights of the Old Republic 2 when it got ported to Switch, I think it's a pretty easy buy. These games are incredible. I want to do a platinum trophy hunt for both of them, and I'm so excited to get my hands on it when I come back. And maybe we'll talk about additional Battlefront games. I'd like to talk about the also Elite Squadron and Renegade Squadron games on PSP. Those were ones I put so much time into because now you have Battlefront on the go. So I have many thoughts on those and much less experience in those as well. And of course, Battlefront 3 continues to elude us. There was a canceled one that was seemingly really close to done. If you look up gameplay online, it's a pretty incredible story. And so hopefully one day we do get Star Wars Battlefront 3 and we can do a massive retrospective of every Star Wars Battlefront game in a single video. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will catch you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.